George of Pavliscak Studios, and it's time to make a marble. Because if you wait longer than a week between marble demonstrations, that can't be good. Alright, let me check my angles and things ready to go. Let's get a little flame on here so we can see what that's going to look like. Real nice. Okay, well, today, if we get up to enough people, I'm going to flash a secret word, and there'll be a choice of earrings for a prize. And so if we get, no one's here right now, so if we do get above 20, I will call that out for the secret word. Till that time, let's make a marble, shall we? Yes, we shall. Alright, I'm going to check my annealing oven because it's been a little bit capricious lately, and so I want to verify the temperature before I get going. Turn this back down. We're going to make a mostly clear marble today with a swirl pattern in the middle layer, so not in the core layer and not in the outside layer, but in the median layer. It's going to be towards the surface. It'll be like if the marble was a planet, we're going to build our detail on the crust, and there'll be a clear atmosphere over that for smoothness and a slight magnification of our detail. My kiln's being very weird. I might have to check it again later because it's been really varying in temperature and irritating me. All right, let's see. Marble here. Magnification there. Good. So we'll work on the core. That's going to be clear. And then I've got several colors that I want to use, and there's actually, I'd love to use 3 kinds of blue. And what I have is this light blue and this dark blue, and what I like is a blue that's in between those. So let's make one. And the key to making colors is to go, it's not a 1-to-1 ratio, so if I wanted a color between, hey Schnoo, between this light blue and this dark blue, I would actually go probably 5 parts of the light blue to 1 part of the dark blue. Let's try that. And I'm a little short on this light blue, so I'm going to get a new light blue rod, and we'll go from there. And so let's get some ratios of color here. I'm going to go 2, 4, 5 parts of light blue to 1 part of dark blue. So I have 2. Let's go over. So I've got, let's call that 5 parts right there. 2 long ones, 1 short one, and 1 short light blue for 6 parts total. And let's see what that looks like. And since we're going to pull it out into a fairly slim strand, the color will become true right away. So what I'm doing is, I don't need to flash this, that's just a bad habit. So I'm going to build my color mix on the stainless steel rod. So just heating up light blue, and I can heat up that whole rod. And add the next bits. I need a tweezer. Here's one. Add that last part of light blue. And the dark blue. So 5-to-1 ratio to get us to between those 2 colors. And I'm just heating everything up now. It could be a mess, doesn't matter. It's all going to get mixed and folded about 100 times. Actually, I don't need my second handle yet. What I'm going to do is not talk with my mouth full, but melt this and let's give it a little squish together, and we'll melt it all together. Squish it one more time, and then we'll start twisting it up. This is just a little color pulling prep for the marble that we're going to make. And the marble we're making is a little bit simple, so I wanted to show some of the other stuff that I do in addition to making the marble that goes into making the marble. And a lot of it is making pieces or materials that go into the marble. And so sometimes, you won't even, once you have the materials made, you're just putting things into the marble and mixing them together and using them to draw and paint and fabricate your design. But really, all those parts also took experimentation and tossing around ideas, trying new things. It's great because you can always use materials you can buy. Once you've used them, enough times. Here's my gather. Let's look at it. You can see it's starting to get mixed. You see the dark blue in with the light blue. That's kind of a cool view. And now once I twist it, it's getting a little cold. I'm going to twist it up so it folds. Let's heat it all up again. Start the process over. So mixing color is one of those things. You can hate it, have it be a chore. It can be something that you like. You can use it to get rid of little pieces on your bench. Make yourself a custom color for that particular bead set, or flower, or marble, or just a stripe, or try something out. If it doesn't work, you can always recycle it again. Alright, now we are mixing that color again. You can see on the ends, it's not quite as mixed. Focus. And in the middle, I'm getting that medium blue that I sort of wanted. I was showing you too long and it froze into a block. Let's get it hot and finish this mixing up, and we'll pull it out into a string. Maybe like a 3mm rod. Great for drawing bigger stripes. Most of the time I pull 1 to 2mm strands for drawing fine lines or making flowers. Actually, I like to have 1 and 2, and then for some other kinds of construction I like to have 3s, like for making fish or frogs or bugs. 3D stuff where it's not going to be all compressed into a marble, but it's going to have some texture, like for earring beads, little bees and stuff like that. I want to have not a full-size rod, but a small rod. And sometimes I'll just pull down the color that I'm using, if it's black or white or whatever. If I've got a formula for a color that I like, I might pull that specifically, or I might just mix together all the greens on my bench and see what kind of green comes out. If it ends up being ugly, there's ways you can fix that too. Make it brown. Brown is awesome for doing nature painting type work. Alright, that's really mixed up. And it's very hot. Let's let it calm down a little bit. And then I'm going to pull it out into a thread. And then I'll have to go back and remelt the ends. Get that off there, because there's actually quite a lot of the metal punty inside that blob of glass on the end, where it's right under my nose right now. So let's melt that off on one end. We got our nice 3mm rod of medium blue. Let's melt this side off. And we'll look at the color after it's cooled down. But now I have this glass left on these handles, and a lot of it's pushed onto the handle. So I'm going to get it hot, so I'm not wasting any of this color that I mixed. I'm going to pull it all the way off using the corner of my torch. You could use a marver, a steel paddle, whatever tool you like. I use whatever's around. And so there I pulled that color all the way to the end of the handle. I'll do this on the other side as well. And there we pulled that color off the rod, off the bead mandrel or punty or handle, whatever you want to call it. Now let's melt those together and merge them. Get them really soft and ready to pull out into a thread, and we'll pull this out into like a 1mm thread that we can use for if it wants to fall. That's why I'm doing weird stuff to it. You don't have to make those weird motions or not what you want. There we go. Alright, now we'll get it off the end of this punty rod. And I always quench my rods in water and start from the same point, you know, where the glass is shattered off. They're cold, but there's not things going to pop off, big chunks popping off as I heat up these ends. So if this is hot and I quench it, it's going to come out. This is the one I did previous. All the glass is popped off of there. This is ready to go for the next time. And it's stainless steel, so it can sit in water. Alright, so here is our little thread that we pulled, medium blue. Let's look at the medium blue that we made in relation to these two. And you can see we got the color, right in between those, and it was about out of 6 parts, 5 parts of the lighter, 1 part of the darker. And boy, I'll tell you, I spent a lot of time mixing color to figure that out, and I just told you, I semi-regret that right now. Because the path to discovery is a path of learning. And, you know, some of that you can avoid, and other parts of that are good to embrace. So I wanted 6 colors, and if I, you know, having a million years available to me to work, I would mix these greens again and get a medium green. But I'm going to go with yellow because that'll give it a little extra pizzazz. So let's get started on the marble itself. And let me say, I really like this blue. It's like a periwinkle blue. I would be making that many more times. I actually have done that mix with white instead of the light blue, and it comes out quite a lot more like robin's egg than periwinkle. And this, I have been previously unable to capture that tone of blue, and so like I said, that experimentation is great. And looking at someone else's list of mixing and colors and stuff like that, the ratios may not make sense to you, and it's better to find your own way and make your own palette. But some people don't like that. They don't want to mess with the little details. They want to work on the bigger ideas, and that is okay too. And I think it's probably good to go back and forth between those two. You know, sometimes you're way down in the details, figuring out the nuts and bolts and having fun, and then you take a step back and you're working on the bigger stuff. And hopefully, if you practice the nuts and bolts portion, that little stuff, that piddly stuff, or that little technique enough times, you'll have internalized it so that you can just be pulling those out of your pocket as you're working on the big stuff. And the big stuff will have so much more depth to it. Not just pinching together two techniques and hoping that it's good. It's a whole process. I love the process, making stuff. It's like these demos, you know, have you seen, I was laughing this morning, it's like, boy, I've done like thousands of demos, but it's not so much that there's always someone here watching, or before, you know, the quarantine thing, that people would come to my studio and watch. It's the fact that once a week, at the very least, I sit down and I make a marble, and I break down what I'm thinking as I do it, or tangenting off on thoughts that are related, and it's sort of grounding to know that no matter what else that I'm doing that week or that month, I'm going to, at some point that week, I'm going to sit down and make a marble. And that makes me very happy. I was doing quite a bit of glass work after last week's demo, but none of it was marbles. But I was having a good time. I was doing, so I had another person make a suggestion, and it kind of clicked with me, so I was like, oh, I'm going to try a bunch of different things based on that suggestion, and it was like a skull and crossbones, and a little kraken, and some other, you know, piratey kind of stuff. It's great for Halloween or whatever. I really should be working on St. Patrick's Day stuff now. It's too late to do Valentine's Day. It's 2 weeks away. Getting it made and on the website and shown is, you know, sometimes that happens, but that's not this year. Got sidetracked. I was doing some glass pressing experiments of little marble stands with words in them and stuff, and that came out really cool. Anyway, I've got a big gather on this, and that's going to be the core of my marble. So let's get a handle, punchy, and I'm going to heat it up so it's orange hot, and get it stuck in the end of that gather. And then I'm going to go to where the rod joins the gather on this side and start heating that and melting it off. And then I'll have that big round gather that I've gotten rid of a lot of the impurities. Beautiful, clean gather. Let's look at it. Just like a floating droplet of water. I'm going to shape it into a cylindrical tube. Tube is cylindrical. Cylinder. It's not a tube. It's a cylinder in the fact that you can see through it, I guess. So I've got a little graphite marble plate right next to me for those who've seen me work before and seen any of the pre-shows or other associated me yapping before or after the demo. And so I've made a cylinder out of that. This is the core of my marble. It's a little lumpy, which is fine. Because I'm going to just decorate it at this point. But sometimes I like to have a little bit better shape. little more even, a little more circular, cleaner ends, because it's the basis for my decoration. I don't want to have a surface where I'm trying to correct for the stripe I'm putting on. I want the stripe to go on evenly, where I want, the way I want. And surface preparation of my gather and core, it's a great way to start. Certainly depends on the kind of marble you're making, with your design, what you want it to be. If you want it to be look like you feel at the moment, you don't want to take extra steps, you want to show some emotion when you put together, that's also good. Here, I'm going to try to make 6 fairly even stripes down this. I'm going to take my gather of opaque glass. This is my darkest blue. I'm going to touch it to the side of the core, go down the side, melt it off. And there's my stripe of blue. I'm going to get a stripe of, let's do, since that was dark blue, let's do dark green opposite that. For no other reason than that's what I feel like right now. I could have said anything, but it means nothing. Just me adding the colors, having a good time. So let's touch it on there, drag it down, melt it off. If I did that in a flame, probably could have got a little more even. Sort of trying to show you guys that. It's alright. B minus. Let's get the next blue on there. We'll put this light blue next to the dark green. Oh yeah, that's what I was always thinking the entire time. So let's do it right next to there. And then let's do the light green next to the dark blue. And that leaves us with sort of a light blue, dark blue side. There's a gap in between. Let's put the yellow there and the medium blue across from that, just to break things up. I know some people would say, well, put the medium blue between the light blue and the dark blue, but those people and me are having a fight right now. I'm putting yellow there. Alright, last color, the color we made, the periwinkle medium blue. And this is a thinner rod, and I actually have a wider space there. Do I want double stripe? Or do I want to have a little space there so you can look all the way through to the other side? Let's leave some space. This stripe there. And so there's like a spot where there could be another stripe, but we're going to leave it blank. Freak people out. No, it'll be, just be nice to see through. And it depends really, if I'm going to put a tight spin on this, those lines will converge as the design tightens, and you might not even notice that there's a difference in space in between all the stripes and that last one. If it's loose, you'll notice it more. Alright, I'm going to drag the color down a little bit along the core. This is cool because you can see it all the way through. Core. It's clear. And then on the sides is the color. We're going to heat it back up. I think it got pretty cold. So if we did get up to 20 people today, which I don't think we will, we've had a few coming and going, but I was going to say, here's a secret word. Uh-oh. That's magic, right? That'll be the secret word when I give you the word. When there's 20 people in there. But that's alright, because glass doesn't go bad. And we'll have those prizes for next time. So I'm just pulling this color a little bit over that edge. I got a little crooked there. It's annoying. Let's straighten it out, melt all the colors in. There we go. So I pulled the colors in on the end just a little more. I want to clean up the end with some little tiny glass jacks. Oh look, you can see all the way through to the stripes, the back of the stripes. It's a cool effect. I have a couple marble designs based on that where you can see the front of the stripe and then the back of the stripe is also decorated so that like the back has a different decoration than the front, and as it turns around you can see both sides. Those are affectionately known as blender elves. Alright, so I've got a medium-sized clear rod. I'm going to cover these colored stripes over the clear base with this clear. And I'll be using a little swipe gathers over the top of those colors. This clear rod is being grouchy. Once a crack resolves into the rod, a lot of times it's very hard to heat the rod up without it just causing that crack to spider out and crack off the end of your glass. But let's see if we can be patient and bring it back. Save that end. That's a couple gathers worth of clear. Nice quality clear. Medium quality clear. Alright. I think we got it melted back in. So we're going to start putting swipe gathers over top of our core and interstitial decoration. Middle layer decorated. So there's a clear gather over one of the colors. And another clear gather working on the end of this rod. Keep it going. There'll be around 6 to 8 gathers that go all the way around. Coat all of those colors in the middle layer. Sort of sandwiching them between the clear core and the clear outer layer. There's our second gather on there, next to the first one. Using a swipe gather is a great way to add clear glass in a thin layer without trapping air. And I have talked about ways of doing that hundreds of times in these demos. Essentially don't want to have a sharp crease line. That's going to trap air. So you want to gently let your one layer or your one line merge with the other so the line of where the two meet is softer, more of an obtuse open angle rather than a pinched valley. And you don't want to go perpendicularly in to that gather. You want to come in at an angle and push it down, pushing along that joining line. It forces out any air that you might otherwise trap if you went straight at it. I've seen a lot of people do, glass casement where they're pushing blobs onto something to cover over it, and it's okay if you don't mind air bubbles, because glass and air bubbles do work together really nice. This particular one, I just didn't want air bubbles, so I'm just doing it this way. Get them out of there. And I used to make a lot of dichroic marbles when you could get 104 or Moretti coefficient of expansion glass as dichroic coated. I don't see that a lot anymore, just because I think 104 is very popular anymore. I'm going to switch later this year, I think. I've been saying that for 20 years. And here I am still using Moretti. And like the past couple of years, I've been like pulling clear rods like crazy, trying to get them cleaner and smushier gathers and all that kind of stuff. Because it's fun. I like that challenge. And I do have a lot of this glass around, so I kind of lost track because my gathers were clear enough that I was like, oh, did I cover that? I'm not sure. So I have one more area that, boy, I just can't tell if I got all over this light green stripe or not. So I'm going to put one more gather over that. Then we're going to start shaping this. I could add a little more volume to this too if I wanted to, with some more swipes. But this is going to be a cute size. First thing I want to do is merge all of those swipe gathers that I've done together. Get them so I can see where that middle layer is lying in relation to the core and the outside layer. Just check, make sure it's where I like it. I'll be able to see all the way through. Then I'm going to add some twist, and then I'm going to clean up the ends. That might be it. I mean, sometimes simple is beautiful. This is kind of a classic glass blowing design marble where you go get a gather out of the furnace, clear. You pick up some cane pieces, melt them in, get another gather of clear over top, bam, start twisting it around. Ta-da! It's a marble, or blow a bubble in it. It's a vase. It's a dish. I like marbles because they're useless and they're small and they're really fun to make. If you make a dish, did you make it in a size that people are going to use? Will you ever sell that dish? Do you have to carry that dish around to shows? You have to keep it in your studio on display. You have to dust it. You know, if you don't sell it in a year, what are you going to do? You're going to put it away. You're going to melt it back down. Marbles, just put them in a display. A lot of times at the end of the year, I have marbles I didn't sell. I just pack them all up, put them in storage, start over. New marbles that year. Then 10 years later, you go in and find the box of all your old marbles, and you're like, oh man, that's so cool. Alright, I just cleaned up that end just a little bit. You know, I didn't jack it down to a point or anything like that, but I just had a messy spot on there. So, too much clear, too uneven. This end is still messy too, but I'm going to go ahead and do my twisting before I don't know, I just want to. Now's a good time. To do the middle of the marble. So I heated up my handle and bored into the glass gather. I'm going to just get all the heat nice and even. Somehow got some little dots of dark blue in my design. So they snuck in there. Couldn't see it when the work was hot. Now that parts of it are cooled down, you can see it. It's fun. All right, so I put the twist in it. That's pretty cool. Let's take off this end that I just put on. So this side handle I just put on, put the twist in, and take it back off. So I've melted it out, pulling some glass with it. Pinch it. I'm going to get out my mini glass jacks. Scissors. All metal, barber's scissors. Very thin. Great for lampworking jacks. Garage sale, a bunch of those. Get 10. Try them all. Find your favorite. Okay. Squeeze down the end so everything is swirling down to a point. Everything coming in. Almost everything. God, that looks pretty cool. All right. I'm going to shape this whole unattached side, make it spherical, a little more spherical. Not perfect yet, not quite there. But once I get it a little more spherical, I'm going to reattach a handle on this side. Then I'm going to clean up that end with the glass jacks, squeezing it as I turn to get it to come to a point. Like that. Sneak it. But it's got a little cold now, so I'm going to heat up the whole thing for like 30 seconds a minute. And then I'm going to start using a graphite marble mold. Basically just a hemisphere in graphite. Graphite pulls heat out of the glass pretty fast. So I'm not going to dawdle in these. I'm going to gently use them for just a few seconds. And then get the hell out of there before they steal all of the heat out of my marble. So I can continue to work it. Right, that's a weird angle. I'll switch back. sort of have my preferred left hand is for evening the glass out, and I do add a lot of detail with my right hand for the most part. You may find you switch back and forth. There's a lot of things that I like to switch back and forth on, especially if I'm working for a long time, just for fatigue. Being able to use both hands is very nice. And since you're here spinning stuff for hours and hours and hours and hours, why not practice a little bit and get better? And you do it anyway. Alright, so a little more spherical. Looks cool. Let's go and get a handle on this side. So my end is pretty nice, right? I don't want to push a metal handle into the surface of the marble, messing up those little ends. So what I'm going to do is protect that end with some junk glass. I'm just going to put a little blob over it. Then I'm going to attach my handle to that blob. So it's kind of a cool trick. It's reverse engineering of like a glass blowing technique, where someone will take a hot blowpipe and put it in the glass and get a little tiny gather and shape it for a punty handle, punty rod. And they'll be able to attach to whatever their partner is working on glass blowing wise. And then the glass that they gathered on that blowpipe is going to be junk, but it's the intermediary layer between the metal that they can hold and the glass that's going to touch the work. And so that's my little intermediary right there. I think it was last week when I was talking about not only can you not touch what you're working on, sometimes you have another layer of tools or materials covering the thing that you want to manipulate. So you're working through like two vectors to get to what you want. That's just another instance of that. I want to pull that to a point. I want to get at it without having to dig too much into the marble and change its shape. So I'm just going to pull it out a little bit, like that. I get a better view, better angle on that. That looks kind of cool just that way, doesn't it? But now, all those colors of the stripes are pulled out. I can get at them with the jacks. And I'm going to make my parting line and then squeeze down, adding a little turn as I go, and beep, it pops off and leaves me with a nice end on that marble. Now let's get this a little more spherical. So lamp working, what I'm doing here, a propane oxygen torch and glass rods. We've sort of reinvented the wheel here. We've made a glass blowing style marble that would take a glass blower, probably all of 2 minutes to do. But having the benefit of large scale equipment and molten glass at the ready, you can do that. Lamp workers don't. They start everything's cold. So let's see, where's that? There's the stripe where there's the extra space, and you can see to the back the big magnification back ends of the stripes. And you see it even better when the surface is smooth. You can see all the ripples on it. Those are chill marks from using the graphite paddles, and that's what we're gonna get rid of now. And in fact, since this is such a simple design, I sort of want to bend it. So I'm going to do that. And how I'm going to bend it is I'm going to change my axis of rotation. And that way my last attachment point won't be on the poles that I wanted to keep all nice and pointy and meeting together. So, change my angle of rotation. Now we'll melt off that handle that I had there with the little blob that was protecting my point where everything met. Let me go ahead and just carefully pull that off. There, we preserved our nice little swirl on the end. Got rid of that glass. Now it's crooked. So let's fix that. Get it straight. There. Heat up my other handle, stainless steel punchy. Let's just keep that marble warm. We don't want it to get too cold. And we especially want it to get heated up and stay heated up in the middle, because I give it a little twist. So I've got a handle on there now. See the middle of the marble. I'd like the stripes where I'm attached to show a little bit of action as they turn, but for them to show a little, I want a lot to transfer to the middle of the marble. So I'm going to focus on the middle, like the whole equator that is between these two poles right now. That's where I'm pumping the heat in right now, because that's where I want it to move the most. So I'm just tweaking it with my hands. I'm sort of like turning it, but I'm letting it catch a little bit here and a little bit there with my hands. Sort of testing and adding. You know, so one side it's turning, but the pole on one side is turning too much, so I'm going to back off on that side and move it over to the other side. You can see I'm getting a little motion. I'm not rushing it or trying to force it in there, just tweaking it in a little bit at a time. And now I think that's enough. I could go more, but look, you can see through to the back side of the design. So I'm going to get rid of one of my handles, this one here. And I'm just going to examine where that handle was touching, make sure there's not any artifacts left of the handle, and I sort of like the way it was left here. So I'm going to round up this free end, get it a little sphericalized. I'm going to try to get like 70 or 80% of this unattached side as spherical as possible. Give it a quick touch on the graphite marble molds. Then I'm going to give it a quick hit on the cherry wood paddles. The cherry wood paddles don't draw a lot of heat out of the marble, and so you have to put the marble in kind of at its ideal temperature to be there, and have the surface get hardened and smoothed while the core of the marble is still hot enough that you can take that surface and get it spherical. You're changing the sort of the plate tectonics of the marble surface. For the graphite, you only get a couple seconds before the surface really freezes, and that's where you get the rippling from. So now I'm just going to heat the surface and let the surface tension of the glass pull it smooth. And what's going to happen is the surface is going to get essentially too hot to go into the marble paddle, the cherry wood ones. So I'm going to keep it spherical and smooth on the surface by keeping this even, moving it through the flame, keeping it rotating, so that I am my own free roving marble paddle right now through motion and heat. And now temperature's falling because it's out of the torch, and the surface is starting to freeze. And now is a good time for it to go through the cherry wood. So I'm going to spin it, change the angle of rotation, a few seconds in each mold, and you see how it keeps spinning? That's the ideal. It means your marble is very spherical if it keeps spinning, even as it's changing its axis of rotation. Now I'm going to add a glass handle. This is going to be my final handle. I want it to be lightly attached, but strong enough because I still have a little work to do on this side of the marble. It's not quite spherical, and I will have to run it through the graphite mold and the cherry wood mold. So let's attach that. I was going to talk about that. It just happened too fast. So I pulled off that steel handle. I was heating the handle more than the glass so that when the handle pulled out, it brought some glass with it. That way it's not leaving debris from the handle inside the marble. You can see it's clean. I'm just going to heat it so that the surface is hot and the interior is hot. And I'm going to give it a few seconds in the graphite. Just quickly, once in a larger hemisphere and then a little bit in a smaller using the rim of the mold. And we really improved our shape there. And wow, I love how you can look through and see the stripes on the back. I know there's just some ripples on maybe this unattached third. So I'm going to repeat the process, just not as drastically. Heat that surface. On the marble mold now, rotation and heat. If it's oblate, I can lengthen it like this. If it's too long, I can flip it back like this. But you're always keeping your glass spinning. Otherwise, gravity will very quickly pull it out of shape. And there we go. Smooth on this just going to let it cool down on the surface a little bit so that when I touch it to my cherry wood molds, it's not going to stick. But it'll ride on the carbon of the burned cherry wood that's moist. Let's spin it. Really wants to continue to spin. That's great. So now I'm going to chill that last attachment point with my scissors, and then I'm going to tap it off. I'm going to support it with a fireproof tile, which I have over here. So I'm just chilling it right now. I'm tapping it off. Came loose. I tap any loose carbon out of my torch, and then I'm going to polish that last attachment point where the glass rod was attached to the marble. I heat that area strongly to get it very hot, and if it starts turning orange, then I back off a little bit, let the glass move and adjust as it's cooling, hit it again with the heat 4 or 5 times, and it's good. Now to transfer the marble, which is still at 1500 degrees or more, I'm going to get a pair of wire tongs. I'm going to heat those till they're orange, and then wait till they just fade down to black. That's the right temperature to pick up my marble. Pick it up. And now I'm going to go put it in my annealing oven and hold it for 2 hours at 960 degrees. I'm just going to bleed my torch lines. Oxygen first. Turn off the main valve. Then the low pressure valve. And the torch valve. And I'm going to bleed my propane line. Turn it off at the tank. Let the propane burn itself out. Almost out. I don't want this to backfill with regular oxygen. It can have a little propane in there. The propane I use is at such low pressure. And oh, look, here's the little, one of them anyway, the little pieces that we tweeze, that we cut off with the jacks of the scissors on the end of the marble. Looks pretty cool. So, oh, and here's the other one. So, the Blue Mountains Art Club uses those for art projects. And then if I get the boring ones, I remelt in my crucible for like the glass I was doing this past October. I'll do that in the future. Right now, I'm melting stained glass in that for glass pressings. Let's see, do I have any of those out right now? And you can see those on my website. I don't know if you'll be able to see them in the future, but for right now you can. I've got a bunch of different pressings that I was working on. Here's one for, it's be hard to see, that I was working on for a show, Moon Marble Company. And then here's one that's Pavliscak Studios. Oops. There it is. And then here's some Blue Mounds. And they're basically just reverses of marble molds so that you can hold a little marble on a glass stand that says where it came from. Kind of cool. Anyway, so thanks for coming and thanks for watching on the replay if you are. And I will read back for questions on this and answer them on Facebook, of course. And we'll see you next time. All right, bye.